This meeting is now being recorded.
All right. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We do have all the phone lines muted, so if you have questions, please throw them into the chat and we'll get them at the end. And then if you have any concerns with audio or visual, Michelle is going to be managing those questions as well. So I just wanted to welcome everyone for being here, and thank you for everyone for making it on this Thursday morning. Today we're going to be discussing the Make It Okay campaign, which you'll learn about in the next hour. So I won't spend any time introducing it. I'll let our presenters do that. But I did want to introduce our presenters, so I'm going to read a brief bio of each of them. Our first presenter is going to be Dee Dee Varner, who is a licensed social worker by trade, and Dee Dee has served in the Community Relations Department at Health Partners for 19 years. Previous experience she has had is in rehabilitation services with persons with traumatic brain injury and disaster services with the American Red Cross. Next will be Abby Miller, and she is a part-time program coordinator for the Make It Okay with Regions Hospitals and Health Partners. And Abby has worked for Regions for the past 8 years and started her role as an occupational therapist in inpatient mental health at Regions. Abby holds her master's in occupational therapy and business administration. Our third and final presenter is going to be Jessica Said, and she is the Community Health Specialist of Goodhue County and Human Services, County Health and Human Services. Jessica holds an MS from the Minnesota State University of Mankato in Health Science Community Health Education, and her work with Goodhue County focuses on improving the health and well-being in residents of Goodhue County. She has also been instrumental in leading Goodhue County's effort with the Make It Okay work in Goodhue County. So now I will pass it on to Dee after this is what our agenda looks like, kind of a brief history of what Make It Okay is, an overview of what a Make It Okay presentation would look like, and then Jessica will talk about how Goodhue County has really taken Make It Okay and turned it into their own community-based initiative, and then we'll talk about the resources that are available for you online, and then we'll open it up for questions. So on to Dee Dee.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dee Dee Varner, and I can't hear you, but I'm guessing you're laughing, and that's okay. Yes, that is me, and I just wanted to share that I'm really proud to start off with the kickoff of the history of Make It Okay, but it's also helpful to know that I have experience with mental illness in my own family. I'm guessing there's many of you who are listening who might also have experiences as well because it impacts over 20%. So let me tell you my story here. I think it's early, mid-1990s. I'm attending the wedding of my niece, who's only 6 years younger than me. It's a lovely day. The ceremony is now over. We're at the reception, run to the restroom. I'm in one stall, the door is shut, and suddenly I hear this whispering voice from another stall who says, "Are you Chrissy's aunt?" And I'm kind of like checking feet underneath the stall to see if I was the intended recipient of the message, and I kind of just mumble, "Yes, I am." And the whispering voice comes back and she says, "Well, is it true Chrissy's dad has a mental illness?" And I'm in the bathroom. I'm taken a little off guard. I take a breath and I said, "Well, yes, my brother Dennis, Chrissy's birth father, lived with a mental illness. His diagnosis is paranoid schizophrenia, and I'd be happy to talk about it later after we're out of the restroom." So the history is my brother, who's 18 years older than me, has 2 girls. I did not grow up with my brother because he is 18 years older than me, but I knew him to be very brilliant. He graduated from MIT at the U of M in chemical engineering. He always had answers for trivia. He could cross-pollinate a potato and a soybean and create hybrid species, and he was an accomplished engineer. He married, had 2 girls, and then his mental illness became unmanageable. He divorced, he lost his job, and became pretty reclusive. He was diagnosed in 1976 He had been in state hospitals and outpatient programs. Some of the medications worked. This is back in the 70s, and I would say medications weren't as helpful that time. And some had severe side effects, and so he was on and off his medication. But he lived courageously. He did die at the age of 53 of heart disease, and that's not abnormal. Persons with severe mental illness on average tend to die earlier than those in the general population, and in fact it's 10 to 25-year life expectancy reduction.
Sorry about the slides, we got it figured out.
So let me tell you about the history of mental health. The Eastside Metro Mental Health Roundtable started in 2006 by our CEO, Mary Brainerd, who invited community leaders, including the Mayor of St. Paul, law enforcement, mental health nonprofit agencies, housing organizations, and hospitals to a dialogue. We knew the mental health system was broken, and the Eastside Metro Roundtable on behavioral health was intended to engage leaders to build awareness of the scope of the issue and kind of understand what are the barriers and challenges in the East Metro system and generate practical short and long-term solutions. So since the first meeting, this collaboration of over 25 community leaders has tackled crisis, patient flow, access, and mental health stigma. In 2009, China Hospitals and Clinics, Health East, Health Partners, NAMI, Department of Human Services, and other mental health community groups began taking positive steps in the effort to reduce stigma, often associated with seeking the professional mental health assistance. The stigma attached to mental illness is the main obstacle to better mental health care and the quality of life for people who have illnesses and for their families and the community. There's a lot of evidence that individuals who possess educated information about mental illnesses are less stigmatized than those who are misinformed. This suggests that providing individuals with factual information will reduce stigma. And so this is why we created Make It Okay. And I want to share that Make It Okay, we have the website on every one of our slides because we really hope at the end you'll take a call to action and check out that website. In 2011, we launched Make It Okay. And through a grant through Health Partners, NAMI Minnesota worked with Regions Hospital to change the experience. Our hospitals decided that, maybe we have to focus internally first and start changing our practices and kind of walk the talk and then take it out to the community. So we began to work on transforming our environment so that it promotes recovery and hope, encourages the involvement of family and friends, and changes the attitude of staff towards mental illness and family members. It was a whole education program, and we really wanted to encourage empathy, including visitors and the giving of cards, flowers, or gifts, just like what would happen on a cardiac floor or any of the other floors in the hospital. So our marketing and media campaign was actually developed by Preston Kelly. We thought, how can we start a social movement around this reducing stigma of mental illness? And we thought, can we use the techniques that our advertising companies use to sell other products? Preston Kelly came back with a wonderful campaign to not only educate more people about the problem, but give them a positive way to get involved in solving it. So they used traditional and digital creative work to start a conversation and a movement. And again, all of these slides that you're seeing and a lot of the illustrations are all available at makeitokay.org. In May of 2013, Health Partners and Regions Hospital announced the launch of the new campaign to target the stigma. and developed in collaboration with community partners and the Minnesota chapter of NAMI, Make It Okay is designed to encourage people to talk more openly about mental illness and ask for help. Instead of simply raising awareness about the need to have a conversation, the Make It Okay initiative provides concrete steps on how to hold one and above all things, how can we hold each other to say something helpful, not hurtful? And today, the Health Partners award-winning work includes all of our materials from a website to toolkits, ambassador trainings, a speakers bureau, online tools. And in 2016 and 2017, we launched The Hilarious World of Depression. I know it's hard to think that mental illness is hilarious, but it's a great coping strategy. John Moe with the Minnesota Public Radio thought maybe if we started sharing stories of comedians around the country who have experienced mental illness, we could reduce stigma. So the traffic to Make It Okay website has tripled, and I believe the Hilarious World Depression has had the podcast of over 1 million downloads. So sometimes it's the messenger who's bringing the message to the community that works. I want to leave another illustration with you, and I'm going to come back to a picture of me and a car, which is not my car. But this time it's about 2004. I'm married. I'm a full-time stepmom of 2 beautiful kids. My stepchildren's birth mother, unfortunately, lived with a mental illness, and I was determined that my husband and I would talk openly and honestly with the kids. Their mother did nothing wrong, and a mental illness is nothing to be ashamed of. So I turned to NAMI for language to use with the kids, and I knew they were getting it when I overheard a conversation in the car. My son wasn't with us this day, but I had picked up my 6-year-old daughter and her 6-year-old friend from school. And I overhear this conversation coming from the back seat. So Izzy, my daughter's friend, and her mother also happens to be a social worker, turns to Emily, my daughter, and says, I understand that your mom is ill. I'm kind of cringing at this moment. I want to say something, but I just bite my tongue. I tell myself, let Emily handle this, and I just hold on to that steering wheel, and I face forward. So little Emily turns to Izzy and says, well, yes, she's sick, but she's not like sick. She's coughing into her arm at this time. Her brain is sick. And I am smiling in the front seat. I'm a proud parent moment. And little Izzy responds, well, my grandma's brain is sick too. I'm just laughing because here's 2 6-year-olds in the back seat of my car talking about brain disorders and just having a simple conversation in a matter-of-fact way, and I was just elated. So Make It Okay is really that simple. It's like, how can we reduce stigma? It's easier than we think. Do we have to have long conversations? No. Do we need to be a mental health professional to talk about mental illness? No. And so that's why we created the tools of Make It Okay. I'm going to toss it over to Abby, who's going to give an abbreviated Make It Okay presentation.
Hello. Thank you, Dee Dee. This is Abby Miller, and I have the wonderful role of coordinating the community-based Make It Okay efforts on behalf of Health Partners and Regions Hospital. I myself have given several Make It Okay presentations to a variety of groups, faith-based, professional groups, community organizations, anywhere and everywhere I can go. It's an honor to be able to speak. It's always well received, and I think that it's common that anyone who gives a presentation overall feels the same way. The presentation itself is readily downloadable from the website. It generally takes about an hour. However, it's also adaptable. I recognize that this is the real world and not all settings allow an hour. Sometimes we don't have the capabilities to show the videos or kind of go to the website to show some of the other activities. So it's adaptable to your audience, but we always ask that we maintain the overall integrity of the message, which is to make it okay to talk about mental illnesses and provide the tips for talking. As a presenter myself, I've been able to provide several personal examples. It's our stories that make the greatest impact. So when you're giving the presentation, it's so important to open up to the audience and just understand that it's common. Every presenter kind of brings their own twist into the presentation of, either pulling the audience, who has an experience with mental illness. If you ever struggled with a mental illness, or immediate friends, close family friends. It's nice to open up the presentation with the fact that it is so common, and even to share your own personal story, such as Dee Dee. I think that it's just both stories, the story in the bathroom and the story in the car, provide these great examples of how we can start coming together to talk more. The first part of, click again to there, the first part of the presentation is just providing some basic facts and information about stigma. You can't talk about mental illnesses without talking about stigma. It's these sets of negative and unfair images and beliefs that people have about something. The common images that come up are, someone that's scary or violent, homeless, disheveled, weird, sad, or institutionalized. And these images, they seem to come from the media, the news. That's where we gain our quick sources of information and just kind of tuck it away and move on. And then the lack of information and fear, too, just kind of perpetuate some of these common images. Then we give our audience opportunities to talk more about mental illness. So having them come up with some slang terms to describe what people experience in mental illness. What are some of those terms that often come to mind? And they were already in the previous slide, but it's the crazy, nuts, psycho, wacko. But then when you click again, another word bubble comes up to compare what are some slang terms used to describe people who have cancer. And oftentimes, there's a blank kind of silence. But really, what makes it so difficult? So we kind of think more about this. What makes these individuals so different? Someone who has cancer oftentimes is struggling with a chronic illness and may also have depression or anxiety. They're both chronic illnesses. But why do we have more derogatory words for mental illnesses than we do for cancer? Why are there so many more negative thoughts and emotions that come to mind when someone is experiencing a mental illness? And the answer to these questions can all be tracked back to the stigma surrounding mental illnesses. The stigma impacts how each of us thinks about, talks about, and even treat other people experiencing a mental illness, whether we realize it or not. So how we picture and talk about mental illnesses shapes how we think about people who may experience one. And we just reviewed this in the previous slides, and it gives our audience an opportunity to be able to just really understand that these common words, the crazy, nuts, psycho, and the negative images that pop into our minds, we can change these. It's just about practice and being aware of it. So then we provide some reality. And again, this is an altered reality, right? Kind of the elevated reality of our celebrities are coming out more and more, sharing their stories and experiences with mental illnesses. And we have Sheryl Crow, former President Abe Lincoln, even Michael Phelps. And then there's more and more, and the audience can always come up with more examples, too, for current celebrities. So the truth is that mental illnesses impact every age, race, sex, and ethnicity, any occupation, famous people and not so famous people, like our general selves, too, even though we're all kind of famous in our own ways. And so it's the power of story, and in a way it's kind of like we're fighting media with media. We're bringing these positive messages out so that we can say you can live well regardless of what your diagnosis may be. Then overcoming the stigma facts, we provide some practical facts about what is a mental illness. As Dee Dee mentioned, you do not have to be a mental health practitioner to be able to provide this presentation, but just to know that we can share these common facts, that it's a medical condition, it's common. 1 in 5 adults will have a mental illness experience in their lifetime, and they're treatable. Mental illness is not imaginary, not something to get over. It's not a character flaw or even a moral failure. It's a problem in the brain, not just all in your mind. And then we also provide some practical facts of a couple of slides following this one are about diagnoses, and there's also a slide about symptoms too. And again, you don't have to be a practitioner to be able to just provide some awareness of general causes and to be able to say that, you know, I'm learning just along with everyone else is learning that mental illnesses can be caused by a chemical imbalance, genetics, environmental stressors, trauma, or a brain injury. Exposure to trauma, injury, drugs, or alcohol can even affect the brain for those environmental stressors. And then some of the mental illness diagnoses are listed, but we don't go into depth with these. If people have questions at the end of a presentation, we have a fact sheet that can be handed out because we recognize that people, if they do present, may not be comfortable exploring the diagnoses more, but it is important to be able to just become familiar and have this general awareness of diagnoses because they do sound different than cancer and diabetes. But we want to be able to provide that information to everyone. Then following the practical facts about mental illnesses, we get into kind of the meat of the matter of why does it matter. And stigma hurts. Stigma even kills. It's the #1 cause of disability in North America, and people wait often 10 years before seeking treatment. I think off the top of my head, the serious persistent mental illnesses can develop by age 14, and many illnesses, people don't come out until they're maybe in their mid-20s to 30s. And so that's a long time to be dealing with symptoms and wondering what to do or, not knowing what to do or where to get help. And the waiting 10 years can be many reasons. It could be just because they don't know what the symptoms are, lack of awareness, or maybe they've seen it on TV and they feel kind of the same way, but then they don't want to look like that. Or, there's bullying, and people can be impatient with these types of symptoms too. So there's a number of factors of why that 10 years is a statistic. Mental illnesses are highly treatable. 70 to 90% of people's symptoms are reduced, and they can feel better with treatment. It just takes time, but you know what? Just like cancer or any other chronic illness, that takes time to recover and heal from as well. In a recent survey, 1 of 4 high school students felt so sad and hopeless almost every day for 2 weeks that they stopped doing some of their usual activities. That's a key sign for increase in symptoms for our younger population. And then mental illnesses are the second leading, suicide, a second leading cause of death for people ages 15 to 24. And then to continue on, kind of heavy facts, but they're the truth. Mental illness is inseparably matched with other health conditions, overall health and well-being. Adults living with serious mental illness die 25 years earlier than other Americans. And, Dee Dee touched upon that with her brother, dying at the age of 54 with heart disease. It's, the coping skills, the stress, the mental lifestyle can really shorten someone's life. Suicide with men in Minnesota, it was the year of 2015, my last facts that I have. It was the age 25 to 34 was the highest suicide rate for Minnesota with men in that age range. And overall, 2015, I guess, hit a record high for suicide rates. It was up 60% from the year 2014. So that's not a record we want to keep breaking. We want to reduce that because suicides are preventable. So after sharing some heavy information, we emphasize the stories of hope. So Dee Dee's story of the 2 girls in the back seat of the car, an excellent example of hope. And this is the opportunity for a speaker to play one of the videos from the website. I just did a screenshot here just to familiarize yourself. When you do go on the website, you'll see a plethora of stories readily available. A lot of them are video format, and they range anywhere from 30 seconds, 2 minutes to 30 minutes. So you can pick and choose whatever video you want to show. The one that's in the presentation that's downloadable from the website is Lisa's story, and she is a nurse and talks about her experience in the inpatient mental health unit and how it was returning back from work. So they're great insights, they're great stories. They are produced by TPT, one of our partners, when we launched Make It Okay. So they're really well produced. And they actually won an Emmy for the documentaries a couple of years ago, or maybe that was last year. So please do check out the stories to really learn about real-lived experiences of people living with a mental illness. So then, click some more. We have, you can, put these all up. I think you have to do a lot of clicking, Nancy. Thank you. This all comes down to let's practice what to say. And the slide with the downloadable presentation is formatted a little bit differently, but I wanted just to provide you with a glimpse of what do we review in a presentation. And we kind of quickly go over the don't say because we automatically rehearse in our brains. It's sometimes, oh, it'll be better, or we've all been there. We don't intentionally mean that to be a barrier to a conversation if we do say that. I think one of my first experiences when I was working in the inpatient mental health units at Regions, I know I said, oh, it could be worse. And I was really trying to be empathetic and helpful. But then I probably put up a couple barriers in my first couple of days with a couple of the patients. And, I laughed thinking about it, but it was really hurtful in the moment. And I felt awful. And I came back to the patient and I said, oh, my goodness. I took a step back and I realized that, you know what, you are in your worst spot at this moment, and I couldn't feel any more worse about what I just said. Felt that, like, let's talk more. So it's learning to change those automatic phrases and even more deep empathy that I already feel that I had pretty strongly, but just learning lessons, and you're not going to get it right the first time either. So it also takes a bit of courage to go back and say, man, I screwed up in how to provide the tips for talking conversations. So let's continue to practice. So we really overall want to avoid using any derogatory phrases. We really want to say, let's not call people crazy, psycho, nuts, or insane. They actually perpetuate the stigma, and it's amazing how these words are used on a day-to-day basis. So the key is to remember not to dismiss their illness and to be there for them. And all of this can be done by talking and practicing and kind of what my mom always told me, think before you speak. Just take a moment. It's okay to have a bit of silence, a bit of pause, and in order to have your response. So I'm going to give you all an opportunity now to participate. This is what we do with the audience, is read a scenario. And what you can do is type it into the public chat of what would you say. So I'll read the scenario here real quick, and I'll give you a minute to 2 minutes most to type in your responses of what would you say. So the scenario is your best friend comes over and says they haven't been feeling well lately. They say they have been diagnosed with anxiety, and sometimes it feels like their heart is pounding so hard that they feel like they're having a heart attack. What do you say? Okay. Well, one example is, simply to say, do you want to talk about it? Or is there something that you want to talk about? Provide that person with an opportunity to engage and kind of say, oh, yeah, actually I do want to talk about it. Give them their space and give them their time to be able to come in. Don't judge, laugh, dismiss the conversation. I'm sure you are all professionals and all very well attuned to being able to navigate difficult situations. But it's really engaging and enlightening when you can have kind of a real live audience to be able to engage in these types of conversations. So a couple more is, oh yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. What can I do to assist? Yeah, offering help is going to be something that, that person will greatly appreciate. And then, I'm sorry you're going through this. Do you want to talk? I'm here for you. Yeah, providing that compassionate, I'm here for you, and if you don't want to talk in the moment, I'm still here for you in the moment. And we go through all these different tips, and so those are great examples. Thank you for sharing. We have 2 more slides, and then I'll move it over to Jessica because she has the best information of all of how to actually use this into a county setting and a community setting. So I give the audience just kind of reinforce action steps to continually talk openly, pledge to be stigma-free, refer people to non-resources. So again, Make It Okay is not set up to diagnose or refer others, but it is to start opening up conversations, breaking down barriers, so that people feel comfortable reaching out to their local resources. And then visit the website to download your own materials. And then so we encourage you to start thinking of how you can promote the campaign and support your community. All the tools can be downloaded from the website. I provided just a quick snapshot of where you can see it on the website. When you do go to makeitokay.org, it's under the Take Action. And actually the website was down the last 2 days, but I think Preston Kelly and I got it fixed, so they should be back up there. But that's why I check it constantly. So right now we'll transition and hear from Jessica's side at Goodhue County and their experience of successfully implementing the campaign into their community.
Hello everyone, my name is Jessica Spade and I'm the Community Health Specialist for Goodhue County Health and Human Services, and I lead the Make It Okay efforts within Goodhue County. A little bit of information about Goodhue County is that we are located in the southeast region of the state. We have a current population of a little more than 46,000 people. Our county seat is Red Wing, Minnesota, with a population of around 16,500 people. Make It Okay in our area had a simple start. A community member heard about the great work that was starting in the metro area, and at a meeting she mentioned the initiative to 2 other community members, and a conversation about mental health started. After that conversation, the Greater Red Wing Mental Health Initiative was created. This group of community members met and 3 key goals were formed. One was to have a local NAMI chapter in Goodhue County. The next was the United Way 211 free confidential community helpline. And the third goal was to have a local Red Wing Make It Okay pilot campaign. The Make It Okay Coalition formed in summer of 2013 and piloted the Make It Okay campaign in Red Wing for 1 year, culminating in a media campaign for May Mental Health Awareness Month. The media campaign included TV, radio, print, and outdoor media. Here are some examples from the campaign on this slide. The county had great buy-in to Make It Okay program, and during May, put Make It Okay information on the county website. I really like the Facebook post on the left. This is a screenshot from my personal Facebook. I did not send this information to the sheriff's office. They put this information up themselves. And this was just one of the ways that the community took the campaign and made the message their own. Another example might sound silly, but the simple act had a greater impact than I imagined. And I put Make It Okay flyers in the bathrooms in the government building. During meetings, many coworkers and visitors would mention the flyers, and many coworkers asked for copies of the flyers for their churches. And then here are a few examples from local newspapers during our media flights. And then after our media campaign in May, the Goodhue County Health and Human Services Board took the Make It Okay pledge to increase awareness, understanding, and erase the stigma surrounding mental illness. They all signed our Make It Okay pledge board, and we used this pledge board at events and during media campaigns throughout our county. In July 2014, the Red Wing Make It Okay Advisory Group met and agreed to expand the anti-stigma campaign countywide and brainstorm the objectives contained in the 2014-2018 Community Health Improvement Plan Action Plan for mental health and chemical health. Part of the pledge that the Goodhue County Health and Human Services Board took affirmed a commitment to expanding the program from Red Wing into the rest of Goodhue County. They also encouraged the community to take the Make It Okay pledge. A community health assessment, also known as CHA, provides the foundation for improving and promoting the health of the community. A community health assessment identifies and describes factors that affect the health of a population and factors that determine the availability of resources within the community to adequately address health concerns. Information from our CHA came from both primary and secondary data, and we mailed out an opinion survey, facilitated key informant interviews, and focus groups. We also researched other statistics. In Goodhue County, mental health is our #2 health priority. Feedback was consistent that a lot of people were getting by. The information from the community health assessment was then developed into a community health improvement plan, also called CHIP. The CHIP serves as a work plan for Goodhue County Health and Human Services and other community groups in the county who are working to implement the health priorities. By working together, all partners are able to identify their role in the CHIP, which will enable them to use their resources effectively and efficiently and ultimately improve the health of Goodhue County residents. Objective 1 of our Mental Health and Chemical Health Action Plan is by December 31st, 2018, to reach 3,000 people with a 20 to 60-minute Make It Okay presentation by a trained presenter. And that's off of the belief that if each of these people tells 5 other people, then the campaign will really reach 15,000 people through word of mouth. And we hope to accomplish this by recruiting new presenters, presentations throughout the community, including work sites and schools, to create a presence within faith communities in Goodhue County. And here's a quick look at our presentations from 2014 to 2017. Nearly 1,000 people attended a 20 to 60-minute Make It Okay community or workplace presentation in 2014. Goodhue County Health and Human Services staff and Mayo Clinic Health System staff have presented the majority of the presentations. Goodhue County Education District provided youth mental health first aid training to school staff and community members with Now is the Time Project Aware grant funds. The 8-hour presentation started off with the Make It Okay presentation to show the stigma surrounding mental illnesses. This training was provided by 7 presenters throughout the county in Red Wing, Goodhue, Zumbrota, and Kenyon, with a target reach of 250 people. They had an actual reach of 395 people who received the training. Mayo Clinic Health System conducted a learning management system video with Sarah Stinson, who is their lead in their behavioral health department, narrating the slides for Make It Okay. The video was required for Mayo Clinic Health System Red Wing employees. It was optional for Mayo Clinic Health System Lake City and Cannon Falls employees. And then the presentation was followed by a short quiz. Employees needed to have at least an 80% to pass. And also, Goodhue County staff was in agreement that it would help us reach our Make It Okay presentation goal to have a contracted volunteer coordinator who would recruit new presenters, schedule and coordinate presentations, and give presentations. I still coordinate the awareness-raising activities throughout our county. In December 2014, we were awarded a 21-month grant to contract with the Make It Okay volunteer coordinator. And so then in June of 2015, we contracted with Michaela Reed, who is our current Goodhue County Make It Okay volunteer coordinator. So objective 2 from the CHIP is to raise awareness of mental illnesses in Goodhue County. And we plan to do this by participating in community events, annual October and May media campaigns, public screenings of mental health-related shows and movies. And some examples of those are the TPT documentaries, which are just phenomenal. Any Identify the Stigma movies, and movies such as like A Beautiful Mind and Call Me Crazy, a spy film, are just certain examples that we have. And we also want to collaborate with and present to local government organizations. And some of those that we've already done and will be doing are the Goodhue County Commissioners, City Councils, and then the Red Wing Human Rights Commission. And there's great flexibility with Make It Okay to create your own awareness tools. One example is we created a Wordle using the Make It Okay presentation script. We use these around our community just to change it up a little bit from the flyers that came with the toolkit. We also created Make It Okay for some of the incentives we use when tabling or during presentations. And I wanted to provide some examples of upcoming events and awareness that we have, especially coming up in May. We'll be working with local city councils and having them take the Make It Okay pledge at city council meetings and signing the pledge board. We will distribute tabletop displays throughout our community. Local partners will display them, and I'll go into some local food establishments and coffee shops and ask them to have them out during the month of May as well. We're doing bus advertisements throughout the county. Pretty excited about that. We work with a local advertising company, and we'll have 4 buses with Make It Okay messaging going through Pine Island, Zumbrota, Mazeppa, Cannon Falls, and Red Wing through the months of April and May. We will work with local partners to provide awareness within their work sites. In the past, Red Wing Shoe sent out emails to staff once a week for the months of October and May about Make It Okay and mental health. Their leadership personalized the emails with personal stories and messages. They received a great response from their employees and plan on continuing this during our media flights. We have also started work within our faith communities and plan on implementing a Make It Okay Sunday within a few local churches to start. We're also hosting a community event at the Sheldon Theater in Red Wing. We created a family event to spur conversations at home, and we will be showing a movie and providing a meal. When creating our 2015 Goodhue County Community Health Needs Assessment survey, we asked some new questions regarding mental health. We asked about people's medical diagnoses, mental health days, access to mental health care, beliefs about mental illness and stigma, and suicidal behaviors. We had Wilder Research do some new analysis of survey results this time as well. This let us look at equity in a couple different ways. For the new mental health questions that we asked, we can compare demographic groups, such as age, race, ethnicity, income, and gender. For example, female respondents were more likely to report depression at 26% compared with male respondents at 11% within Goodhue County. We can also compare people with a history of mental illness to people without a history of mental illnesses for our other survey questions about health conditions, health care, healthy eating, active living, tobacco use, drug use, driving behaviors, and demographics. We have a 2-page summary of the responses to the mental health survey questions available. Wilder Research had also put some of the highlights of the survey in a bullet point in the summary that is available on our Goodhue County website. So you are all experts in your community and know what works best. A great part of the Make It Okay program is that it can be tailored to the wants and needs of your community. With that in mind, I wanted to share a little information from another community in Minnesota. This information is from St. Croix Valley. This slide shows their key strategies and measures and the metrics they will use for each. And then here is another example from the Make It Okay Community Advisory Group in the Valley, which includes Washington County. One of the goals for Make It Okay is to evaluate the impact of the campaign and measure ongoing progress. This is a very small test, and it's not really ready to be implemented on the broader scale, but it's an example of evaluation. The idea is to take a live poll of the audience. They are able to answer 2 to 3 of the selected questions via an anonymous poll. These questions are adopted from an anti-stigma research study and have been vetted through other references of theirs. This live polling evaluation has been done a handful of times within the Valley Initiative, and they have found that stigma persists amongst us. The point of these questions are to raise awareness in our own actions and assumptions, and not to criticize. They also serve as great feedback and general conversation points for the group. Marna Canterbury states, "We want to treat mental illness with the same dignity, openness, and respect we would any physical illness. And we want that to be what's the norm in our community and help community members grow in their comfort level about talking about this." So now we are going to open up for questions.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to unmute the phone lines in case anyone wants to answer.
All guests have been unmuted.
So if you have a question, feel free to either type it in the chat box or answer it over the phone. If we get too many of these, I'll probably end up muting again. But does anyone have any questions for any of our six presenters?
Again, 36 pages. See, we can print out.
Muted their phone.
Go to the application.
All guests have been muted.
So if you have any questions, please feel to put them through the chat box. It sounds like a few people have their phones not muted, so we were having a little background noise. So feel free to ask a question. And then, Abby, I had a question for you about kind of getting the resources and the training. How would we kind of do a train the trainer in our community if we wanted to do that?
Yeah, right. That's a good question, Nancy. As this continues to grow and spread, it's so grassroots that it's probably in many communities already that we're not even aware of. But if you are interested in just asking questions or figuring out how it might work to implement it within your community or your county, I can certainly take some time and kind of consult with you and kind of review what Jessica has done, give you some more information on what Washington County, the Valley area has done. Because, right, you can easily download everything, but then it's kind of like, what do you do with it? And there's a part on the website that gives you a day-by-day, like if you were going to implement this on a intermediate level, it gives you a little bit of a step-by-step, post these newsletters or share this story. So it gives a good measure, and it's a turnkey toolkit, but then again, it's always nice to kind of go off and get other ideas too. So I'm always willing to set up some time to speak with anybody who is interested in pursuing this further.
Great, and I will be sure to send out the contact information of the presenters today, as well as a link to an evaluation so you guys can get CEUs and provide any other feedback or ideas for kind of next steps. And then I had another question kind of for Abby is, what do we see the next big thing Make It Okay? So we have the Hilarious World Depression, we have some of the great work that Goodhue County is doing. Is it more of it's evaluation work? It sounds like Marna's really trying to promote. We just kind of keep growing, or do you have like an idea of the vision?
Yeah, I think we keep growing. The Hilarious World Depression was a huge boost to the campaign, the program overall. Like Dee Dee said, it hit our 1 millionth download, and I mean that's thanks to NPR and American Public Media for producing these podcasts and this wonderful partnership and brilliance of John Moe's mind on his relationships to be able to have famous people talking about their experiences in such a candid way. It's not a secret that there's a part 2 coming out. So they're quickly working on to have what is this going to be a part 2. Keeping with the theme of Hilarious World of Depression, but something else. So if you haven't started listening to the podcast, please do so. They are about almost 40 minutes, but that time goes by so slowly. So fast. Wow. So, no, it goes by so fast you want to listen to it again and be like, what did he say? That line was brilliant. But otherwise, I know... So it's kind of individual. So Red Wing, they have their community event being planned. The Valley, the Washington County St. Croix Valley has an event for their community planned at the end of March. And it's really rallying around communities at this smaller scale to have these connections. So that's really what we want to emphasize and support.
And one other thing to mention is that this program, especially in Goodhue County, has just been so amazingly impactful. Every time we've done a presentation, we stay after and people come up to us constantly and say, thank you so much, or I have this story or this kind of thing, and it's so great that we're finally talking about it. And I know I had mentioned Facebook before, but there was another time where my director of Goodhue County Health and Human Services pulled me into her office, and I was a little nervous that I was getting in trouble, but she just wanted to show me a personal Facebook post from one of her friends, and they had mentioned something about Make It Okay and that it's so great to have the community rallying behind them, and they had mentioned for the first time that they did have a mental illness and they had been living with one, and they had received over 100 likes within a couple hours and just great comments of if you need anything, I'm there for you. And so it was just really cool to see that people were impacted and really great to hear that. And so it's been a great program within Goodhue County.
I have one more thing to add, and thanks.
All guests have been unmuted. All guests have been muted.
From Regions Hospital, 2 Spanish-speaking interpreters, and they worked with me. They volunteered so many hours translating the presentation into Spanish. And they've attended a couple Spanish Hispanic wellness fairs within a couple faith groups, and then we're on dock to try to schedule an actual formal presentation to some church groups and some parent groups. So we have the presentation translated into Spanish, and we also have a couple of brochures, kind of what to say, what not to say, translated into Spanish. So, and those are readily downloadable from the website as well. So that's another new project. Mm-hmm.
Great. So Jessica, what do you think was the number one thing that was most successful? Is it kind of, I would think it would be partly just getting it into your chip and then being able to have that, but also are there particular events that you find that have the most reach or the most impact?
Definitely getting it into our chip was very impactful for the fact that then we can continue our work, and the county's on board, everybody's on board with that. But our events and getting the word out too, I think that has the greatest personal impact just because, like I said, mental health and mental illnesses are so common, so the fact that people are being comfortable within our community, and especially in rural communities, we have stigma. People have mentioned before about not wanting to go to certain places because people will see their car there or that kind of a thing. So being able to talk freely is really great within our community.
All right. Do we have any other questions from anyone? Well, we will, you can always email me directly, Nancy, and I will also email all the attendees the link to the evaluation/CEU. I wanted to thank our presenters for coming in person to Health Partners today. We have a lot of construction going on, so it's always an adventure. And thank you all for your time today, and I hope you found the information helpful and useful, and you're welcome to contact me, any of the presenters, and of course visit makeitokay.org where you'll find just everything you could possibly need on that website. So thank you, everyone, and I will end the recording, and I will also send the recording out with the PowerPoint to everyone who has attended as well. Thank you.